Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So today we're going to be doing the spray painting stage on this Volvo XC60. So something a little bit different today. Now those who do keep up to date with my channel will know that I've just had the Standoblue system installed into my workshop. So previous to this, I was using the Standox solvent-based system, the Basecoat system, which is getting a little bit long in the tooth, and it's no longer going to be supported here in Australia. So yeah, all of the solvent Standox shops had no choice but to either swap over to the Standoblue Waterborne system or look elsewhere. So yeah, we decided to stick with the Standox brand, and we've gone Standoblue. So a few things have obviously changed in changing the paint system. Now what you're watching me wipe the panels down with here is actually a Waterborne cleaner. So essentially all this is methylated spirits mixed with demineralized water. So yeah, that basically just cleans all water-based contaminants off the panel. So prior to doing the masking stage, I did in fact give both of these two panels a wipe down with the standard wax and grease remover, otherwise known as Prepsol. So what that does is removes any solvent-based or oil-based contaminants, wax and grease as it says in the name. And then yeah, prior to painting the Waterbourne, because it's a water-based kind of paint, you really need to get rid of any water-based contaminants. So basically what could happen is, if when you're masking, if you've got like sweat on your fingers or something like that, then that sweat will be a contaminant as far as the Waterborne paint is concerned. So yes, once the panels are all nice and clean, I've got the blender in the gun, and yes, I'm using the air from the gun to blow the panels down. As you see there, sometimes a little bit of that water cleaner can build up inside the edges of your masking and that, so that's why I make sure I give those edges just a little bit more of a blowdown when I'm using my tack rag than I usually would when I was using solvent base. So look, at the end of the day, I've actually used this system for quite a while, but under a different name. So Standoblue is actually exactly the same stuff as Chromax Pro and Spies High Tech, I think it's called, yeah, Spies High Tech or something like that. But basically the mother is the Chromax Pro. Now I use this under the name of Chromax Pro, but yeah, all the materials and all that is exactly the same. So yeah, I do have a bit of experience with it, but I've sort of loosened up a little bit this time. I think previously I was trying to follow what the paint reps were saying too much, and this time I've realized that, you know what, I don't have to do everything that they say, you know, because sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes yeah, they go right by the book. They tell you what they have to tell you, but yeah, like basically this is a perfect example. I was always told that you had to spray all the base coats at 2 bar. Now I put this right down to, I think it was like 0.8 of a bar. You probably just saw in the video footage there. So it was well below 1 bar, and I'm doing my blend first with that lower pressure to make sure that I don't get overspray all over the edge of these blend panels, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to blend that color. I don't want this color, this fresh color of mine, to go right up to the edge of that panel, or else we would not be blending, and it would completely defeat the purpose of doing a blend if you're not going to blend. And in that case, you would have to make sure that your color is an absolute spot-on match. So yeah, look, this does happen pretty quickly, spraying this Standoblue base coat. So just take note of what I did first. I put the blend, did the blend first with the lower pressure. I then turned the pressure up a little bit. I think I went up to like 1.2. And keep in mind that what I'm doing here is I'm just doing a few trials. I'm playing around with it, and I'm finding out which way is going to work best for me to spray this stuff, and to stop getting too much overspray on those blend panels, because that is one of the things that I really noticed when I was spraying this compared to spraying solvent. Like, I can tell you now, if I was spraying solvent, there would be not one drop of blue on any of those adjacent panels, or where the adjacent panels are meant to be, but the masking of the adjacent panels. So yeah, as I say, look, I maybe could even turn my pressure down when I went to cover the primer patches as well. So as you probably noticed, when I was covering that primer, I put my first coat on, a nice wet coat, and then I held the gun back a little bit, and then I went even slower But I still think that even when I was doing that, I was actually getting the color a little bit further than what I would usually like to get. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is a great system. It's got many pluses to it. At the end of the day, it's going to be a little bit different to spraying solvent. So I guess you can't expect it to spray exactly the same way as solvent. And what you see me doing now is just getting an air blower. So this is one of the DeVilbiss air blowers, and it actually sucks in air from the spray booth, and obviously it's got that mesh on the back of the blower to stop any dust blowing into the panel. So yeah, I like these blowers best because they do suck that extra bit of air in from the spray booth, so they have a higher volume of air blowing over your panel. So also take note that I'm setting myself up on a bit of an angle so that you're sort of blowing the entire side of the car, not just straight on. You know, you wouldn't really want to stand straight onto the panel because then you're only really doing that one section. So you also probably noticed that all I had to do was put on the 1.5 coats of color. Obviously, because I was only putting on 1.5 coats of color, you really need to make sure that the primer is as close as possible to the shade of the color itself. So if I was to go and just put light grey primer on this and then try and get coverage with 1.5 coats, it probably actually wouldn't be covered. So what you can do in those instances, let's just say I only had like a white primer down on these on these two panels, right? And I needed to go straight over that with my base coat. You got a few options. Either just put one extra coat of base coat down, and then that's obviously just going to take a little bit longer to dry, or you can even use your wet on wet primer, or aka sealer as they call in the USA. And then that's going to get most of your coverage. But you do have to be careful. Again, that can float over your blend panels. That's why a lot of the time I will avoid doing that unless I really have to. I mean, yeah, if I need to just put a little bit of wet on wet primer down, totally down the other end of a panel, and I know I've got lots of room for the overspray not to land on my blend area, then yeah, absolutely I'd do it. But a job like this, where as you saw, probably only had like a few inches, however many inches it was on each panel, to do that blend. If I was to go and put the wet on wet primer over all of that primer and then put the color over it, you'd pretty much say goodbye to your blends, and you'd either have to color match it completely properly or blend down the entire side of the car, which is probably a little bit overkill for what this job was. Truth be told, that quarter panel was down to be blended. My boss gave me a blend on that quarter panel. I said, look, I don't need it. I'm pretty happy that I'll be able to get the color good for starters and blend it secondly. So yeah, look, one other thing I do really like about spraying this Standoblue is the clear coat goes over it a lot nicer. You're not sort of like fighting against the finish of the base coat, if that makes sense. Now, I'm sure most spray painters, most people in the trade, most people that have used solvent and water will totally understand. Anyway, I mean, I've only ever used the Chromax Pro and the Standoblue. I actually did use Basecoat once and Octral as well. Octral was quite good. I found the coverage good with that, but I did find that Basecoat was really bad with the coverage. Just keep in mind, I did only use the Basecoat and Octral, like Basecoat once and Octral like 2 or 3 times or something like that. So I did find the Octral system much better than the Basecoat. But yeah, the clear coats did seem to go over both of those two Waterborne base coats a lot nicer than any solvent that I've ever used. Now, at the end of the day, like, you can get some really nice jobs with solvent, but it's one of those things that you really need to give it an extra tack rag. So with this job that you're watching me spray right here, I did not touch that with a tack rag after I applied my base coat. So you saw me give it a really good tack rag at the start. I then applied my base coat, I put that blender down. Now if I didn't put that blender down, I probably would have tack ragged over the entire panels, especially those blends, because your overspray can sort of go a bit dusty. But as you see here, there's one little bit of silicone, which I did dab in before I hit bake. That allowed me to, and yeah, 1 or 2 nibs in the top of the door, but really nice slick finish on it. I really wasn't having to fight the base coat. It retains a really nice gloss after a bake because you don't have all the solvents in there. And especially this time of year, it's summer here where I am in Perth at the moment. It's drying pretty nice and fast. That's actually probably the worst thing that you can have happen with this. So as it gets warmer and warmer, it's actually probably going to be a little bit harder to apply the base coat. So that's basically the worst thing that can happen with this system, is the base coat drying as you're spraying. You need it to be nice and wet, and then you dry it obviously after you've applied it, clear coat her up, and you're done. So as you can see here, look, this job here took me all of 10 minutes, if that, to polish. So, you know, it might have taken a little bit longer to wait for the base coat to dry, but what you save in the polishing bay, you might have to spend in the spray booth, or, you know, you can go and mix up another color or the next color or whatever. Just utilize your time. That's one thing I think I'm pretty good at. So either way, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and stay tuned, subscribe and all that jazz. Check out my social media links down below. I'll be uploading, yeah, lots more of the Standoblue application in the future. So, you know, join me on the journey of myself getting better and better as I get more experience with this system. So hope you've all enjoyed watching. Until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.